So with all the recent updates, I'm doing stuff in Lightroom that a short while ago would only have been possible in Photoshop. Working on skin, changing colours and even adding lighting effects. Lightroom just keeps getting better and better. So to show you what I mean about using Lightroom more and more, I'm going to go through 3 images that before I had to use Photoshop to get the result I wanted, but now I can do exactly the same with fewer steps in Lightroom. In one of my videos I showed how to deal with the reddening in skin, and I showed it using this portrait. And here's the technique I showed using Photoshop. First of all, I'll choose a hue and saturation adjustment layer. From the Masters menu, I'll choose Reds. Now the reds that will be affected are the ones positioned between these markers, but if I increase the saturation, you can see that they're not the exact reds I want to adjust. So I bunch these markers all together and then choose the plus eyedropper and drag over the red areas of skin that I want to adjust. I'll then increase the saturation to visually see what I'll be adjusting and then reposition the markers by clicking and dragging in the middle to fine-tune their position. When the saturation is only on the correct area of reds, I use the hue slider to add in some cyan, which reduces the red. So that no other areas were affected, I would then invert the mask and then use a white brush to reveal the adjustment only on the red areas of skin so that the reddening is no longer visible. So this is before and this is after, before and after. But this is how I can now do it in Lightroom. I'll just go to the masking and choose colour range. I'll then click on an area of red skin and use the refine slider to focus in on the red areas which we can see covered with the overlay. To see the overlay better, I can change the colour of it by clicking here and then just choosing another colour. Then I'll just use the hue slider to add in the cyan and it's done. If I do need to bring back colour to the lips, then I just click subtract. Use a brush and quickly brush over them. So this is before and this is after, before and after. Now colour range in Lightroom is so incredibly useful, even for simple tasks like changing colours. I mean, it doesn't get any easier than if I wanted to change the colour of one of these deck chairs. I go to masking, then colour range. Click on the colour of the deck chair, use the refine slider to make sure all the area is selected, and then just use the hue slider to change the colour. Done. Now in this group portrait that I took, the skin on the 3 ladies at the front looks a little bit too bright and distracting. So with the recent update to the masking section in Lightroom, this is how it can be fixed. I just go to the masking, and then Lightroom automatically starts to analyse the photograph to identify individual people or subjects. It does this really quickly, and then you can see them all here with their individual headshots. And you can run your cursor over the headshots and see the person that it relates to. So using this to work on the skin of the 3 women, I'll choose this woman here first of all, then I can click to add more people. So I'll select this woman and then this woman. Now I only want to adjust their body skin, so I make sure that that's the only option that's ticked, and then because I want to adjust each individually, I can put a tick in the checkbox here to create 3 separate masks, one for each of the women. Then in the masks, as I put my cursor over each, you can see which mask is for which woman. Starting at the top, this mask has included this man's hand, so I'll click on subtract, choose a brush, and then just brush over his hand to remove it from the selection. Then I'll just use the exposure slider to adjust the brightness of the woman's skin. I'll also rename this mask by clicking on the three dots, the ellipsis, and choosing rename and call this one right. I'll then go to the next mask, which we can see is for the woman in the centre. I'll rename it centre and then again adjust the exposure. Finally, I'll go to the remaining mask, rename it to left and then adjust the exposure and we're done. Here's before and after, before and after. Finally, here's this caricature I did of my friend Mehmet. If we look at the layers that went into this in Photoshop, you can see that I photographed him against a grey background and I've enlarged his head and all other sorts of stuff. But to add the colour to the background and also add the spotlight behind him, this is what I had to do in Photoshop. I had to first of all make a selection of Mehmet and then use a layer mask to cut it out. Then I used a hue and saturation adjustment layer to add the colour to the background. Then to add the spotlight, I used the elliptical marquee tool. Drag out an ellipse and then add a levels adjustment. Brighten it up and then add some feathering. But here's how I can do it in Lightroom. I'll go to the masks and click on subject. Then I invert it so that the background is now selected. I can then use the temperature and tint sliders along with the hue to add a colour to the background. For the spotlight, I add another mask and use the radial gradient. Making sure that the feather is quite high, I then drag outwards and increase the exposure. Then to put it behind Mehmet, I simply click on subtract and then subject and it's done. I can then easily adjust the brightness using the exposure slider and even move the spotlight and resize it by clicking and dragging. So here's before and after, before and after. So this is just 3 examples of things that I would only ever have done in Photoshop that I can now do in Lightroom, which is really cutting down on my editing time. Lightroom is no longer the place to just import and organise your images. More and more updates and big updates are making this a really powerful piece of editing software that before long will be a one-stop shop for a lot of people. Right, so that's me done. So as always, I'd really appreciate a thumbs up. And if you haven't yet, click on subscribe because you know that's just a great free way that you can support this channel. But that's me, I'm done. I'll see you in the next video.